until today. Today's a terrible day for me to be recording anything about AI.
Punch it, Chewy. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the DevOps Roundup. Today, we're going to be talking about the future of AI because we're all getting very comfortable with it. We're all becoming very dependent on it, but it's costing us a little bit of money. And I think that's going to be changing in the near future. So we want to talk about a scenario. What's going to happen when we got to pay per token? Welcome to the pod, Sean.
Oh, thanks, Alex. Welcome, everyone, to DevOps Roundup.
Welcome.
Yeah. So
we've been spoiled, Sean. We're in a buffet.
We haven't been spoiled for very long, though, I don't think. I think there should be a longer honeymoon.
You think so? I remember the first time that I saw ChatGPT, and I told it, hey, help me write some code. And it just gave me the code. It didn't write the code the way we have it today with cursor and anti-gravity and stuff. But it gave you some recommendations and here's some code. Here's a website. You copy paste. You'll get something. I remember that day back in 2022, maybe.
Yeah, and, sure. I don't remember.
My wife, I'm like, holy moly. Yeah, but I was telling my wife, I'm like, this is crazy. This is going to change the world. So it's been a few years. The anti-gravity, the more vibe coding has only been the better part of a year and a half.
I would say, and probably half a year where it's been truly useful.
Yeah, but I think it's important to talk about the two major differences here, right? We are in an era where, very much like Google search was in the late 90s, early 2000s, you're incentivized to use the product as much as humanly possible to build daily active users, installs. You want a big user base.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that when you charge money.
Yeah, Google search never cost anything. It's still free.
It's still, to this day. I mean, you're bombarded with ads, but
you're bombarded with ads, and the usually the first search is popping up with an AI response. So you're kind of getting AI for free from a Google search. I would say this phase of AI maps closer to the cloud adoption, where it was cheaper to run everything in the cloud. So let's just everyone run there as fast as possible, and then all of a sudden the cloud
reality hits. The payday.
They tighten it down, and all the cloud resources are now costing us an arm and a leg.
You got to pay the piper, right? At that point.
But it was the bean counters thought it was much more cost effective to do everything in the cloud and shut down data centers and lay off your IT department. Because everything's in the cloud, we don't need people managing, data centers and things like that. Well, now when you do the ROI, it's not really as cost effective to run in the cloud.
That pendulum is swinging right back in the other direction.
So I see AI doing exactly the same thing. For the most part, it's still low cost entry, but as soon as you have multiple engineers using AI on more and more complex projects, you start burning through these tokens pretty quickly. And then the cost of AI is now more than the cost of multiple full-time engineers. And are you really getting the same quality out of AI?
Yeah, especially because the phenomenon that you experienced 3 to 4 weeks ago, where the deeper you go into the vibe coding experience, the higher the probability that the vibe coding is breaking the code.
Yeah. And I thought I was finally getting out of that trajectory, that things were getting better until today. Today's a terrible day for me to be recording anything about AI. So I'll try to keep this story short, but yesterday it took all the API keys that I have stored off in a vault and put them in clear text in a file in my Git repository and committed it.
Because why not?
Because why not? It was tired of handshaking with the vault and getting the keys out as necessary.
Probably using up more tokens.
Yeah, probably. So it just said, hey, I'll just put this in an MD file in your Git repository. Luckily, GitLab flagged that. So, hats off to GitLab. Put the Perforce hat away and put on the GitLab hat. So GitLab caught that. However, the AI tool didn't like that, and it bypassed the GitLab pipeline and put all the keys up into my my application server via SSH because it could.
Because why not?
Because why not? Yeah. And I'm like, no, you have a hard, fast rule that nothing gets to the application server unless it goes through the GitLab pipeline and through the deploy process. And it goes, oh, my apologies. I did that wrong. So sorry. I won't do it again. But now I have these API keys that I now need to scrub from multiple places. And,
which now taxes you mentally and from a token perspective, because to get AI to fix itself, you now need to spend more tokens to correct it.
And so I thought I was being lazy, and I said, okay, anti-gravity, this is what you screwed up. And I created a prompt that says, okay, prune the Git repository, fix this, remove it from the API or the app server. And what it did is it went to the secrets vault again, and it grabbed the actual secret keys, put them in a Python script in my Git repository to use as a pattern matching to make sure that it doesn't have the secret keys in the Git repository. So I'm like, you just committed secrets to the Git repository again to make sure that there's none there.
Because it didn't learn its lesson the first time.
Yeah. And so I have to go clean this up again. It's just ridiculous. So I fought with that a lot longer than I should have today, instead of getting other things.
Yeah, but a couple of things that come to mind, right? I'm already saying this over and over and over. These little incidents are costing you more tokens.
Yes.
Right? That's one. Two, these little incidents don't usually get caught by a careless vibe coder.
Yeah.
Which
How many other vibe coders are putting this through, unit tests and permissions tests and things like that to catch that?
Well, I don't think they are though, right? Because we got to consider who's getting laid off.
That's what I mean. I don't think they are.
Right. Like when you're laying off your workforce, you're probably laying off the expensive part of your workforce, which most likely will have the institutional insight to catch these kind of things, right? Like if you and I were in the same room, I would have never thought to do the configuration, but you got an extra 20 years of experience on me that I simply wouldn't have. And I have another 20 years of experience over our buddy Josh that Josh probably wouldn't think of half the things I'd come up with, let alone the things you would come up with. So I think these companies, they're going to have to pay the piper at some point, in one way, shape, or form.
So I was complaining and telling the story to another colleague of mine earlier today, and he had a similar story where AI did not do what he wanted it to do at all, and actually completely destroyed a project that he has been working on for about a week, and so he cussed it out and basically said, I want you to refund all the tokens that you used to destroy my project.
Is that a feature?
But no, it's not. And I think he's using Claude Code. And so
there's another business opportunity, the Costco for tokens, warehouse wholesale tokens. With an unlimited return policy.
So the AI tool came back and said, sorry, I can't handle disputes about token refunds. And I'm like, that answer cost you tokens.
But in all seriousness, though, right? Like, I think we're building at this point that, like, look, right now we're mindlessly, carelessly, and to some level just entitled to unlimited tokens. I mean, it's not truly unlimited, but you get a generous amount.
It's generous, and there's daily limits that you say, okay, I've used all my tokens for the day. Let's do something else, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow.
But that fund's going to stop at some point.
I think so. Now,
And
when it stops, does the industry implode? And all this, the tech bros with all these billions of dollars in these AI companies no longer have anyone to build because we're just we're just done with it.
We're done as a society. So
Yeah.
I think this is kind of where I wanted to focus the second half of the podcast here is like, okay, so given that we've been spoiled and it's unsustainable, there will have to be a change.
Mm-hmm.
So what are our options? Like what happens when it changes? Because I think it's more likely than not that these companies, Anthropics, your Geminis, right? OpenAI, even the auxiliary companies like your Atlassians, your whoever else is doing tokens out there, right? Almost everybody at this point. They're going to basically do a consumption-based pricing. How many tokens you're using, you're going to pay certain monies.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens? Because I would imagine that behavior has to change.
Yeah. So what ignites the change quicker? Us being fed up with the token model, or investors being fed up that there's no profit being made at the AI?
I think it's the latter. I think it's going to be nobody's really monetizing the model.
Yeah. Someone's funding all these companies, but they're not making a profit yet. They're all hedging on futures. And when those futures don't come around because the data centers cost so much, the user base can't afford or doesn't want to afford a token-based model. Does this all come crashing down, and is this the big bubble that?
I don't think it'll implode. I think it's going to be a softer landing than that. I think it'll be a catastrophic thing.
We haven't had a good implosion since the housing crash.
I think people are going to adjust, and you're going to see companies. My prediction would be companies are going to be more careful with their token spending. And I was talking to our buddy Josh about this earlier, right? Like we went to Chubby Cattle back in January.
Which is a Korean restaurant, by the way.
Korean barbecue, but it's a buffet, right? All you can eat. And we were ordering like there was no tomorrow because we paid a good amount for basically unlimited, as much as we can eat in 2 hours.
We were told that's what we were doing.
Yes. So the question then becomes, well, what happens when Chubby Cattle's policy changes to pay per the ounce?
Yeah.
Your behavior is going to change. I don't think you'll stop going to Chubby Cattle. Well, you might just not walk out so chubby.
Yeah. Well, I think that particular restaurant, not to go too far into this, that they already had a fail-safe there. So anything that you did not finish that was brought to your table, you had to pay extra for it.
So you think that could be a possibility for you buy $20 worth of tokens, and if you don't use up your tokens, you pay them back?
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that. Maybe that seems.
I depress Sean more and more after every podcast that we have because you weren't buying the whole ad business inside of OpenAI.
I wasn't buying the whole ad business. So while I think this works to for a restaurant to convince or to
influence behavior.
Yeah, influence the behavior. If you know it was there, we did not know that was the behavior. We thought that we paid X number of dollars for so many people to eat as much as we could, and they encouraged us to keep ordering food. And
the system was rigged against us.
Yes.
But we see this in modern day Apple, right? Apple incentivizes you. They're giving out a laptop for $600.
Uh-huh.
A very, very good computer for $600. That is one of the most affordable, most well-built computers that you can buy in the marketplace today.
Well, what's the catch? I don't follow Apple, so
yeah. So what's the catch is you are brought into the Apple ecosystem at a very affordable price.
Oh, okay.
And
so
then
it's the drug dealer.
Right, because then naturally you want to buy an iPhone. Naturally, you're going to need iCloud. Naturally, you're going to want Apple Music. You're going to want to watch Apple TV on those devices, right? So then you're buying on the services and the back end and all the upsells that that Apple has in the back end. But I would think, again, something very similar to today, all these Anthropics, OpenAI, they're bringing us in with these like, get as much as you want, it's affordable, but you're going to be so deep, right? Because what's going to happen when all these companies spend the next 2 or 3 years investing heavily into their vibe coded environments, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, you got a paper token, and you're like, well, crap.
Yeah, I don't think they can pull the rug out of underneath the consumers until they're completely hooked. And they are using the drug dealing paradigm
model.
Yeah, the model, but they're not. People aren't hooked yet. They're not addicted to these.
Yeah, I think it would be very premature to do it today. We've looked at that grid of all the people in the world, right? And the number of folks that are vibe coding are like 1 or 2 dots. I think it would be premature. I think it would be premature, but I also think that at the same time, I would suspect that something like Google's model would probably go mainstream, where you get AI-powered search results at the beginning, but anything like vibe coding, it's pay or nothing.
Yeah,
anything for advanced.
Now, if you look at any of the or a number of these side companies that are AI enhanced, like some of the marketing AI tools and the sales,
your Canvas and
now those are 100%. You have to pay to play. They're not really doing much at all as far as free credits to.
But what's pissing me off about them, and maybe this is a topic for another episode, is like, I didn't ask for this crap.
Yeah, you log into something that you've used for a while, and all of a sudden this throwing the AI stuff in your face.
Yeah, but that's not the upsetting part. That's not the part that's upsetting. The part that's upsetting is that they're shoving this down your throat, and then they're like, oh, well, because we gave you all this, now we got to charge you more.
Oh yeah, I haven't run into that exactly. What I did run into it, I can't remember the app that I logged into today, but I was logging in to check something, and it forced me to go through the AI tutorial before I could jump out and get to what I actually wanted to look at, why I went there. And each time I went through a screen, I was looking for that. How do I escape out of this so I can just look up what I needed to look up? And it forced me to go through the whole thing. So I wrote down that company name somewhere on my desk here as a do not renew with this company next year. Find an alternative.
Yeah. No, I mean, Copilot is probably the best example where you had Office, and then Microsoft was like, here's an extra $30 per user per month for a feature that nobody asked for.
Yeah, we use Google Workspaces here at release.
Google Workspace did it too. They bumped our price up like $3-5.
I paid for it because I wanted to, play with anti-gravity. And I'm like, well, we're already getting so many credits. It wasn't that much more to bump up to the next level to get the, the anti-gravity tokens, I guess. So.
But again, I think we might just get fatigued as well. So I think one of a couple things are going to probably happen. Either you're going to get fatigued, so you're just going to stop using it. Mm-hmm. You love it so much that you're going to have to figure out how to use it more strategically and wisely, because every execution is going to cost you. Uh-huh. Or you set up your own server.
Yeah. Well, I've already gone down that path. With the Ollama, and I haven't really set it up to the point where I could vibe code with it. But if I wasn't busy out in California all next week, I probably would set that up next week. And,
those are one of my goals to do for this summer, is to set up my own AI server at home with like Ollama or Gemini's model.
Well, we should challenge each other, and maybe that would make us get it done quicker.
Do it.
Maybe bring Rodney into the fold and say, hey, do you want to do an AI challenge where we each try to set up our own, well, not try, I know all three of us can do it, but set up our own in-house AI server and vibe code something with it, and then we can judge. Maybe this can be part of the game show that you're trying to produce.
The vibe games.
Vibe games. I think we probably already have. It would take like no time to get contestants for this.
Oh yeah, like Mr. Lady.
Yeah, Mike Lady, and then Hector. That's two come to mind, but yeah, there's a ton of others that would probably just line up for something.
Chuck
like
Talk, basically all of our guests.
yeah, all the guests that we've had on so far, and probably a number of our viewers. So
no, I think it's going back to the opening story, right? The pendulum's going to swing back to it's. My opinion is that it's going to be cheaper for a corporation like a Boeing, a Raytheon, an Apple, a Google, maybe not Google, but an Adobe, right? It'll be cheaper for them to stand up their own data centers, buy their own H100s, than to pay the tax that's going to come, because that tax is not going to be cheap.
Yeah, at that point, we're going to start employing a lot more infrastructure people, where we're kind of in a lull because of the push to the cloud, that we lost a lot of infrastructure people, per company, and now the developer count may go down, but your infrastructure IT people increase.
I think your developer count is going to swing right back up, though, because unless you really know what you're doing with vibe coding, you're screwing yourself over so badly.
I think so. I think that once the application you're creating becomes detailed enough or intricate enough, you can't maintain it with vibe coding. Every time you try to do something, it breaks three other things. So, one step forward, three steps back. Vibe coding or these AI tools are going to improve, but you really need to know what you're doing when you're using it. And I would say I mostly know what I'm doing.
Most.
Well, I'm not a complete software developer by trade. I'm an infrastructure engineer.
Right.
So.
But I think we are going to hit an inflection point. I think it's going to hit the early adopters most. I think people like you and I are probably going to be asked to make a decision sooner rather than later with respect to, do we continue to pay? Do we now opt in to pay?
Yeah.
Do we pay more?
Point, I think the scales go towards only corporations can afford AI tools, and that your individual contributors like us, we're priced out of the market unless they have some sort of like open source versions of the tools, or like you said, we host our own using things like OLAM.
Yeah, but someone like my mom's not going to set up their own.
Oh no, not at all. So I think
mainstream adoption.
Yeah, so that's completely different from individual contributors like us, or our mothers. I got a lot of tech stories about my mom, which I won't go into because then it gets my blood pressure going. But yeah, they're never going to be. They're going to be part of that graph that is always going to stay gray and not those little red dots.
But I think AI has a true potential, because I think like Google's dominance was never challenged or threatened until OpenAI came out. I don't Google as much as like my little cousins. They just went to Tokyo, and they told me that they used like Google Maps, and they got so lost.
Really?
Because like Google Maps was like confusing, and like what my cousin-in-law, because her husband was telling me, was Google Maps was like so efficient in trying to save you a minute or two that would have you get off of a train, run up 15 platforms running to get to another train just so you can get up to a location. So you can save a minute. But if you stayed on that same train, 7 stops later, you'd get to that location too.
Yeah,
but what my cousins did is they just switched over to ChatGPT, and they used Jippity the rest of the trip, and they had a flawless experience. So I can imagine more and more people going that way, and more people relying less on like Google search. So at some point, I would think that the mainstream consumer is going to become over dependent on AI as well.
Yeah, but are they paying for tokens at that point?
There's a token for every query, right?
They are, but if you're just using a chat interface, you're not really burning through the tokens as if you're using a coding agent.
Yeah, anti-gravity. Yeah, no. I mean, you're talking probably, I would some 50 to 100x.
Well, at least I would think. I don't know for sure, but that's my assumption.
So then we're the only ones that are screwed. Us and the rest of corporate America.
Yeah, I think it's it's the middle class. It's the individual contributor that gets screwed. Corporations just bite the bullet and pay for the tokens.
Until it doesn't make sense.
Well, until it doesn't make sense, but initially it will. And then the people that are doing small open source projects, unless they do it themselves, they're not going to be able to use something like a Claude Code. They'll just be priced out of the market, or they'll be limited to so few tokens that they can vibe code between 9:30 and 9:50 a.m. Then the rest of the day they're out of tokens.
Watering your grass in LA, you can't water your grass. You can only water your grass between certain hours on every other week.
We're in Denver. We're probably going to hit that this year because we had no snow this year, and I'm sure that we're already in water restrictions. So
yeah, I think companies are going to be struggling to figure out how do they not put a bitter taste in the consumer's mouth, but also still stay relevant and profitable? Because if you're not making money, though, that ain't good for anybody. Because if OpenAI goes away and Anthropic goes away,
yeah,
that's not good either.
If the investors show up to get their pound of flesh from these big tech companies, these big AI tech companies.
So when they back up with their dumpster trucks?
Yeah, and then hey, we want
to collect.
We're here to collect.
Because they've already backed up the dumpster truck.
Yeah, they already backed it up to dump and give them all their money. Once they finally insist on a return on their investment, does this market just crash? And I would not be surprised if the AI market just crashes and we could possibly start another depression. There's enough going wrong with the economy to begin with that we don't need help from AI screwing it all up.
The whole thing, every day that passes in these news is just like a house of cards.
Yeah, I was just thinking house of cards too.
Because it's so sensitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing can fall apart in a millisecond, and it just takes one person to overreact.
Well, I don't think enough people are reacting enough, but yeah. So let's not end it on a sour note. This episode is coming out probably 2 weeks after our big Atlassian event that's happening next week. So what predictions did we make that came true?
Well, I predict that Robo goes full consumption-based pricing.
So for our pre-Atlassian event, the Build It Together event, I'm leading, or I'm part of the lead for the Rovo track, and I've been playing with Rovo agents this week, so I have something in my pocket to play with when I'm up teaching our attendees about Rovo. And I've created some interesting things, but completely useless. So I feel that is a theme that will be following Rovo for quite some time.
But it's not just Robo 2 though, right? Because I think a lot of companies, and I think this is where I think this is the biggest inflection point we're gonna hit here with this whole conversation we're having today, right? Because it's so generous today, you can just be careless and just create stuff for the heck of it.
Well, that's exactly what I did.
Right. But if it were to cost you, if you knew, hey, every interaction is going to cost me $5,
yeah,
you would be much more meticulous and prescriptive as to what the heck you're building.
Yeah.
And I think this change is going to happen just uniformly across the entire AI industry. I don't think AI would implode. I don't think the AI companies are going to go away. I think they're going to charge. I think people are going to tighten their belts and realize, oh crap, we need this, but we now need to be more prescriptive about it.
I would be very surprised if the AI companies that we see today exist in 2 years' time. I think that their products will exist in some form, but there's going to be massive M&As and mergers and bankruptcies, and a better AI ecosystem will emerge from the ashes. But I don't see, these companies can't continue to not make a profit and still have investors dumping billions of dollars at them. That's not sustainable.
It's not, but the runway is also pretty long. Amazon did it for 25 years.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Atlassian's been doing it for quite a while too.
I mean, Atlassian's turning a profit now, but yeah, they went at it for many years. So yeah, I think as long as you show the promise, you're onto something. Or I think as long as you show the promise, I think investors will continue. But I also do think that these AI companies need to create the next, shiny object for that investor. Yeah. As long as they continue to do that.
And those shiny objects keep getting closer and closer together. It used to be that, hey, a 10-year outlook was a good outlook, but now these investors want to see
a 10-month. You need like a quarterly at this point.
Yeah, that's what I mean. A quarterly, like every 3 months, there has to be a new shiny thing for them to chase.
Yeah, and then interestingly enough, Apple, the only company that hasn't jumped into the AI bandwagon, is the only one succeeding in life right now. Mm-hmm. I wonder what the secret there is. Well, anyways, folks, let us know in the comment section, what do you think? If Atlassian, Anthropic, Google, all these companies, if they start charging you to use AI, will you use it more? Will you use it less? Let us know in the comment section down below. Hit the subscribe button, drop a like, share this with your colleagues, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right. Bye, everyone.